brief introduction of the thinking that goes behind my experience, and then show you one animation, and then comment on it, and introduce another animation on the subject of typographic sculpture. Actually, this is a fruit of more than 3 decades where we as a design house were passionately working on freehand script, typography, type design, etc. and creating calendars, titles, all sorts of things. And we did this without a lot of thinking that we would arrive here at any time. When we talk of typographic sculpture now, actually this is preceded by, for us, by 2 earlier stages. One is all our experience with typography and calligraphy and freehand calligraphy and all sorts of things. And from that experience, we reached what was later called word art. And word art then took a new dimension, which is typographic sculpture, if you wish. I want to start with word art. I think this term has been given a special meaning not long ago, and in relationship to Arabic calligraphy and Arabic typographic art. And this is understandable because for the Arab world, for the Orient, art was mainly a typographic experience. And I think that maybe like 20 years back, there was a question about, is there Arab art? But after some research, interested people started finding pieces of work that they believe are artistic enough, and they were collected or exhibited under the title of word art. Personally, I think this term, word art, in relationship to Arabic script, artistic script, if you wish, requires to be looked at again, to be further identified. Because I believe that when this interest started some 2 decades ago, it was a bit of a kind of enthusiasm for the art of people that have been colonialized or have been not given enough respect as a heritage. I think that a word to be considered art needs 2 main relationships. It has to belong to its heritage, and it has to belong to its age, to our age. If any work of art does not belong to the present age as much as it belongs to its heritage, in my view, it cannot be considered art. This is why when we came ourselves and myself to look at the concept of word art, I thought that there must be differentiation created between word art and beautiful calligraphy. Arabic calligraphy is beautiful. Classical calligraphy is beautiful. You can make hundreds of beautiful things out of it. But in my view, to be a work of art, there must be a departure from calligraphy into what is more modern, that represents the modern man living and thinking and feeling today. So, this was a challenge. What are the criteria that makes a typographic artistic work really deserve the description of word art? Personally, I think the departure from calligraphy, beautiful calligraphy, to word art is a bit like the song that maybe started here somewhere. This is the end of a beautiful friendship and the beginning of love. So there is an end. Calligraphy is like a beautiful friendship, but art is more to do with love. So my definition of what is artistic has to do with what is with passion. I believe that a typographic work to be considered a work of art must have been molded, shaped and reshaped with the passion of a moment. It's not enough that it is beautifully designed or that it looks beautiful. It must have the impact of the passion of a moment that reshapes the world and gives it a meaning and a message related to itself, and not simply an aesthetic value. So, because otherwise, if we're going to take calligraphy, classical calligraphy as art, then there is not a lot of difference between what a calligrapher can write 100 things. They will all look beautifully the same. But to become a work of art, there must be a much more definite intervention to make this word look what this word means, what it carries. If I'm writing the name of a city, if I'm writing a term of an expression of anger, it should carry a feeling towards the word itself. I utter the word visually, exactly like a poet would utter a word vocally. And this means that a script to become artistic should have can have all the artistic values of this age: abstraction, distortion, reformation. So, it should have the set feeling of a modern age. Without the feeling of the modern age, I don't believe a typographic design or entity can be called artistic. Let me show you this slide interfaces. what you will see now, there will be the name in Arabic and English and its meaning. This is the word poetry. Can I please have this slide put off and normalize.
Yeah.
Actually, what you have seen just now is a selection of few works over 3 decades. Most of those were done at a moment of passion towards the term itself, and then forgotten. After we started thinking of word art, we started looking back, and then we realized that some of these works deserve to be picked and presented and represented again. So actually it is a spontaneous, sometimes it's such a spontaneous moment that you don't know that you're doing maybe the most refined piece of work in your whole life. So, so what you've seen now is actually, of course, one could dispute all what I'm saying, but at least what I believe is that these moments are quite rare. The moment when you reach a peak of artistic expression is rare, and it's fragile, and it doesn't happen very often. But behind it will be a lot of work that is quite profound and quite valuable in itself. But the peak moments are quite rare. So this is what I'm saying, that an artistic, when you want to say that this work is a work of art, it has to have certain very profound values. It has to have, you should feel that this really belongs to a heritage. At the same time, it belongs to an age. Now, of course, all of those started as two-dimensional typographic designs, like all the typefaces and calligraphic works we do. And then, as we developed them, we felt that a third dimension is really asked for. And so, a typographic sculpture is not only a thick two-dimensional calligraphy or typography. It is the third dimension actually is a fourth dimension. It becomes three-dimensional, but it assumes a meaning. It assumes a much powerful expression of the meaning that it carries, like Beirut, like hunger, like fikr that you've seen now. If you want, we can go back if you have any questions. Or no, I don't know. So, a third dimension in a typographic sculpture is actually a fourth dimension in the sense that it gives the work an additional meaning and not just the volume of the work itself. So it is much more than a size. It's total transformation. It's a total new birth of the work of the typographic work. And this only makes typographic sculpture justified to be placed in front of people in public space. Only when this piece becomes more significant, when it takes a third dimension to be a typographic sculpture that can be put in front of in a country or in the center of a city, in front of people for years and years. Of course, I'm not saying here in any way that typographic sculpture would replace other kinds of sculpture at all. It is just one kind of sculpture. What I'm saying actually is that typographic sculpture was able to gain justification. Let me just say a side note that in Saudi Arabia and in other Arab countries, there were pieces of calligraphy that were made sculptural, but they were nothing except the same calligraphy which you see two-dimensional on paper or on anything, was made much thicker. But this is not really a sculptural experience in the true sense. Sculptural experience is a different thing. It is when a word takes a shape, a three-dimensional shape that makes it mean more what it is originally. Like Beirut, the name of the city. One of my most interesting experiences, which I will show you the animation of now. What I ended the last presentation with, which is the word art. The word art in Arabic is Fann, which is made of two letters. And the two letters are, by weird luck, there are two circles and each has a dot. So I was able to create a whole range of designs created from. So I made 8 pieces of interpretation of the word art, Fann, Arabic Fann, in 8 typographic sculptures that were placed over a pool in the center of the city, as you will see now. And Ms. Mourin there is a brochure on the table that will show you as well. Two-dimensional design, the name that I gave the piece, and how it became a three-dimensional sculpture. Actually, this experiment proves something that I wish to dwell upon, the elasticity of Arabic script. wish to say two things on this. First, this is one proof of the immense elasticity of the Arabic script. I think Arabic script has this, because of its shapes, its connections, etc. It has the ability to be so diversely modified and take all forms of shapes. The other is that this experience in particular had such strong popular and public interaction, as you've seen the few pictures here. Really, even the gatemen and they were telling me that all the time people were taking photographs of those sculptures and taking photographs with them, and a father is explaining it to a son, and a friend is explaining to a friend, etc., trying to read the different, how all of these different shapes read the same word. But this was an experiment that had a very significant experience for. So, and this is one of the things that made my belief, my stronger belief in typographic sculpture for public space. And now, actually, I have a dream of creating a park dedicated to the letter, a park dedicated to the alphabet. Actually, the ancestors of my country are believed to have created the first alphabet, the mother of all alphabets. And they, of course, they did it for commercial purposes, which is even more interesting than even. And this alphabet turned into Greek and Latin and Arabic and Hebrew, and, etc. So one dream is to create a park for the alphabet, for the birth of the letter itself. Thank you.
Where is that place? The fountain, the sculpture, in one place in the city?
Which one?
The display you just showed us, where it is situated in Beirut? With the trees, the mosque in the background.
This was a temporary exhibit that it was supposed to stay for 1 week. It stayed for 3 months.
It's not a permanent.
And then went to another location now.
Mm-hmm.
But now it is not. Yes, unfortunately. But Beirut, the sculpture of the city is near
the tall one.
Yes, and AUB is within the American campus of the University of the American University.
But that park of letters that you are dreaming of exists. You know where? In Armenia. Every year they have a type design competition in Yerevan, and they take the judges, the guests of the competition, to the countryside near the city. And this is where you find that place with letters. They're all over the place. They're like mushrooms growing in that field. Very impressive.
Nice. My thinking of the alphabet is to create something that combines a sculptural vision together with a topographic Any questions?
How does the sculpture of Beirut relates to the essence of Beirut? Like how is it like describing what Beirut is? You said that whatever you're doing is just describing the feeling of the thing you're writing.
Right.
So like Beirut, the sculpture you had, how is it described?
How do I see it resembling Beirut?
Yeah.
I really cannot tell, but I really cannot see in it except Beirut. And I don't, of course, obviously it has the feeling of a city, of a
Tall
landscape.
buildings, I guess.
Yes, but still, I for some reason, it gives a very strong feeling of Beirut.
Sorry.
Oh, no, go for it.
I was just going to ask, how do you see the relationship, or do you think your approach is very much a fine art approach and art that's meant to be appreciated in the public space? Do you think that you can translate this approach to commercial branding for a logo for a client? Or how does this approach translate when in the context of a commercial logo branding for a company?
I think I do.
Yeah.
Actually, several of those started sometimes as a logo, as a brand mark. But let me assure you that those that started as a landmark, as a brand mark, and ended up as a typographic piece of work, were done with the sincerity and the passion of a piece of art. And if you wish, in our design house, we have a certain approach, which I don't think we're not the only ones who have it, but we insist on it. That when we are doing a brand mark for something we are passionate about, that we really find very interesting and very not attractive, very for us. We only produce one piece of work. We present only one logo design. We don't present several options or several alternatives, because we believe that in that case we should do the work as if we are doing a work of art in full sense of the term.
How easy is it for native Arabic speakers to like recognize the words that you put into word art? Because you said like, oh, there was like a father like explaining to his son how the word was made, and I'm curious how easily readable those are.
Some
you have
of
to
it
like
is
really
easy,
figure them
some
out.
of it is easy. Some of it needs a little bit of guesswork or contemplation or
Okay, yeah.
figuring out. And I think this is not new. Was part of the tradition of Arabic calligraphy. Sometimes the calligraphy was so intrigued that you can't read it at all.
Right,
Even if you
yeah.
try. So
Yeah, I can read now,
yes,
kind
so,
of, but then like
really people
things
were
get stuck.
very
I'm like,
happy
okay, I don't know.
that after they discover the first one, they start being able to capture the rest.
Okay.